Your franchise is generating less than it should, not because of bad food, not because of the wrong location, because 4 revenue systems don't exist yet inside your operation. Right now, customers are walking out without an upsell. Inventory is getting wasted every single week. Your loyalty program is collecting email addresses and doing absolutely nothing with them. Nobody at your locations owns any of those problems. That's not a staffing issue, that's a documentation issue. And the gap between what you're making and what you could be making is real, recoverable money sitting right there on the table. In the next 12 minutes, here's exactly what we're covering. The 4 revenue systems most franchise operators haven't built yet, what it looks like to build each one yourself, and how a VSA can run all of them across every location without you being in the middle of it. I'm Kevin. I work with Pro Sulum, and I talk to franchise operators week in, week out, and the same gaps show up every single time. If you're curious whether a VSA fits your business, the link's in the description. It's just a conversation. Let me give you the numbers first. The restaurant industry wastes $162 billion in food annually. That breaks down to roughly $20,000 per location per year for a typical QSR. Labor scheduling drift, even a small one, across 30 locations, compounds into $900,000 in EBITDA loss. Loyalty program members spend 5% more per visit and generate 25 to 100% higher profit margins. And AI-driven upsell boards like what McDonald's runs push average ticket up 3 to 5%, which translates to $60,000 to $100,000 per location per year. None of that is a food quality problem. None of it is a location problem. Every single one of those numbers comes from a documented system or the lack of one. Here's what I find interesting about franchise operators specifically. The brand standards are already there. The franchisor wrote them. But the revenue-generating systems inside those brand standards, the loyalty cadence, the upsell scripting, the waste reduction protocol, those are almost always left to each individual operator to figure out. And most never do. Not because they're not smart, because they're busy. The systems just never get built, and the money just keeps leaking. Here's the thing about scaling a franchise that nobody really tells you up front. When you go from 1 location to 3 or 4, you hit what people in the industry call the hell zone. Revenue is growing, your team is growing, but the operational infrastructure hasn't caught up. The playbook that worked at location 1 doesn't transfer automatically. Your second GM doesn't know what your first GM knows, and you, the owner, end up as the only person who can answer any question that actually matters. What breaks isn't the people, it's that there was never a written system for them to follow in the first place. You can't buy your way out of that problem. You can't hire your way out. You document your way out. So let's talk about what that actually looks like. There are 4 revenue-generating systems that every franchise operator needs. Most have 0 of them in writing. The person who builds and runs these systems has a specific name. It's a VSA, a virtual systems architect. Not a virtual assistant, not a task taker, not a glorified scheduler. A VSA documents the process, builds the system, and runs it. Your job is to describe the outcome you want. Their job is to build the machine that gets you there, consistently across every location you own. System 1, the loyalty and repeat revenue system. You have customers who've eaten at your location 6, 8, 10 times. Do you know who they are? Do you have a documented sequence that sends them the right offer at the right time based on their behavior? Most franchise operators don't. They have a POS that captures email addresses and a loyalty app that nobody actively manages. Here's how you build this yourself. You need your loyalty platform connected to your email tool, whether that's Klaviyo or whatever your franchisor provides. You'd set up 3 core trigger sequences: a first visit welcome, a 7-day re-engage for customers who haven't come back, and a 30-day win-back for customers who've gone cold. Each sequence is 3 emails. Plan for roughly a full weekend to configure the platform, write the copy, and run test sends. Ongoing, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours per week per location, reviewing campaign metrics, updating offers when the menu changes, and chasing down delivery errors. The friction point is that it compounds. When you have 3 locations, that's 9 separate campaign sets running simultaneously, and every one of them needs someone to own it. That is doable. The question is whether you want to be the one running it every week. A VSA owns the whole stack. One VSA, all 3 locations, unified sequence, consistent execution. Loyalty members spend 5% more per visit. At 1,500 loyalty visits a month across 3 locations and a $4 average check increase, that's $6,000 a month in incremental revenue, without touching food cost, without touching labor. System 2, the upsell and average ticket system. McDonald's documented upsell process pushed average ticket up 3 to 5%. For most QSR locations, that's $60,000 to $100,000 per year. You probably don't have McDonald's AI system, but you have a counter, a drive-through speaker, and front-of-house staff. The gap between a trained documented upsell sequence and an undocumented one is about 60 percentage points. Documented systems hit 100% consistency. Without documentation, humans hit around 40. You could build this yourself. You'd write an upsell script specific to each day part: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and late night. You document the top 3 upsell prompts per day part, build a 1-page training card for front-of-house staff, and create a weekly audit checklist to verify the prompts are being followed during service. Figure 2 weeks for script writing, training rollout, and your first audit cycle. Ongoing is 2 hours per week per location reviewing the audit, coaching your team, and updating scripts when the menu changes. The friction point is turnover. At 130% annual turnover in QSR, you're rebuilding this training from scratch every 6 months. That is doable. The question is whether you want to be the one running it every week. That's the VSA role. Write the script once, own the training cadence, rebuild it every time the menu rotates. You don't touch any of it. The system keeps running regardless of turnover. If what we've been talking about sounds like your situation, there's a link in the description to book a free call with my team. No pitch. We just talk about your business, what's not working, and whether a VSA is actually the right fit. If it's not, we'll tell you that too. System 3, inventory and food waste control. The average QSR wastes 30 to 40% of its inventory. At a $200,000 annual food budget, that's $20,000 to $40,000 per location per year gone. Chipotle cut food waste 30% using predictive ordering tied to real demand data. You don't need Chipotle's tech stack to start recovering that money. You need a documented process. You could build this yourself. You'd set up a daily count sheet for your top 20 inventory items, build a par level document based on 60 days of historical sales data, and create a weekly variance report so you can see what's being overordered and where. First-time setup is probably a full week of pulling the data and building the sheet. Ongoing is 3 to 5 hours per week per location doing physical counts, running the report, and adjusting par levels when sales patterns shift. The friction point is consistency. Your GM will do it the first month. By month 3, it slips. It always slips without a system that enforces accountability. That is doable. The question is whether you want to be the one running it every week. The count sheet, the variance report, the corrective action call when par levels drift. One VSA runs all of it. Across 3 locations, that's one person managing $60,000 to $120,000 a year in recoverable waste. System 4. The cross-location training playbook. When you open your second or third location, the most expensive thing you do is start from zero. New GM, new onboarding, same questions answered again from scratch. Most franchise owners take the new manager to their first location for 2 weeks and hope they absorb enough. That's not a playbook, that's a prayer. You could build this yourself. You'd spend 2 to 3 months documenting your core operating procedures: open and close checklists, daily manager priorities, weekly review cadence, customer complaint response protocol, and the top 10 decisions a GM makes in a typical week. You'd put these in a shared drive, create a 30-day onboarding checklist for new managers, and record a short walkthrough video for each core process. Setup is long, but it's mostly a one-time investment. Ongoing is 3 to 5 hours a month, keeping the documents current when procedures shift. The friction point is that the person who knows the most is the one with the least time to write it down, and that person is usually you. That is doable. The question is whether you want to be the one running it every week. Bring in a VSA and here's what happens. These shadow in your best location, document the process while working it, and hand you back a replicable playbook in 6 to 8 weeks. Every new location after that gets the same playbook on day one. No more prayers, just process. Now here's where it gets actually interesting. Once you have these 4 systems documented and running, this is when AI starts working for you. Not before, after. AI scheduling tools can cut your scheduling time from 6 hours a week to 30 minutes, but only if your labor rules, your shift minimums, and your compliance requirements are already written down somewhere. Without that, the AI is just guessing. AI demand forecasting can add another 15% on top of what your manual inventory system already recovered, but it needs clean historical data, and that data only comes from your inventory process running consistently for months. I've talked to franchise owners who bought the tools first. They ran them 90 days, got mediocre results, and canceled. Not because the technology was bad, because the base system wasn't there yet. The tool needs the foundation. Without it, you're paying for horsepower and driving on a dirt road. You could try to build the AI layer before the foundation. A lot of franchise owners do. They set up the forecasting tool, run it for 60 days, see mixed results, and conclude the technology doesn't work for their size of operation. The technology works fine. It was missing the documented rules to run on. That is doable. Building AI on top of an undocumented operation. The question is whether you want to keep paying for a tool that's running at 30% of its potential because the system underneath it was never finished. Build the system first, then let AI multiply what you already have. Here's what Pro Sulum does. We place virtual systems architects inside franchise operations. VSAs document your processes as they work them. They build the loyalty sequences, the upsell scripts, the inventory cadences, the GM playbooks. They run them week to week across every location. You don't manage any of it. That's the whole point. Pro Sulum has placed VSAs across 40+ industries. Most owners recover 15 to 20 hours a week within the first 2 months, and our VSAs cost roughly half what you'd pay an in-house operations hire, without the turnover, without the retraining, without the benefits overhead. If you're at the point where you know something has to change, book a call. It's free. You talk to someone on my team, not a bot, not a form. You tell them what's going on in your business. They'll be straight with you about whether a VSA makes sense for where you are right now. If it does, you'll hear what that looks like and what it costs. If it doesn't, you'll know that too, and you're not out anything. The link's in the description. Just book it. And if this was useful, hit subscribe. We put out one of these every week. Thanks for watching.